Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we're continuing our ongoing coverage of military events taking place around the world. Now, before I start to delve into the ongoing war between the Russian Federation and the NATO/Ukrainian alliance, I want to address what has happened over the last 24 hours in the Middle East, specifically the Israeli attack that has decapitated the Hezbollah organization. Now, how did this happen? How did we get here? Well, there has been a number of events that led us to where we're at right now. And I want to go back to the Iranian missile strike, in which the Iranians launched a large quantity of cruise missiles, drones, and ballistic missiles towards Israel. And you can even go back further to the attack that took place in Iraq against the U.S. air base in Iraq. Now, a lot was learned during those attacks, and especially what was learned during the Iranian attack against Israel. That attack was largely ineffective. The technology that was used by the Israelis with the assistance of the United States was somewhat proven. They had an idea of what the capability was. I don't believe that they thought it would be as effective as it was. However, it was. It really was effective in interdicting the vast majority of threatening Iranian weapon systems that were approaching the state of Israel. Okay. Now, after that occurred, obviously, another series of events happened. And then finally, we found ourselves where we were, with Israel making the decision to eliminate Hezbollah as a military organization. It may still have somewhat of a political organization left to it, maybe some, a little bit, but not much. Again, as I've talked about before, the attacks that took place, the communication strikes, obviously everyone's heard about the pager attacks, the communications attacks on the walkie-talkies, what have you, as the mainstream media are calling those communication devices. An incredibly effective strike that took down most of the military leadership and most of the military capacity of Hezbollah, and not just the top of the pyramid. These attacks by Israel attacked the entire pyramid of the organization of Hezbollah. Totally, completely. Rapidly, with follow-on airstrikes, degraded the ability of Hezbollah to launch missile systems towards Israel. And now we're at where we're at with the elimination of Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, gone, killed, and probably members of his family as well, and additional leadership functionaries that were with him at that time. And I think the United States right now, or I don't want to say the United States, the un-United States, I want to say the administration and the group of individuals who are running the country here in the United States, what I've heard, they are incensed. They are enraged because one of the methods of getting to the head of Hezbollah was the initial outreach in which the Israelis were accepting the ceasefire. And it's believed that the communications between Israel and the United States led Nasrallah to go to that locale that was eventually bombed. And that was why the Israelis initially led on to make the Americans believe that they were going to move. The Israelis were going to move forward with a peace process, but it was a ruse. It was a purpose-driven ruse designed to get the key leadership of Hezbollah at one location. And when that happened, that is when the strike occurred, and that is why the State Department here in the United States is just utterly enraged right now at Israel. Very, very upset. Very upset. But be that as it may, that's where we're at right now. And people are talking about the possibility of Iran getting involved, and I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the Iranians are going to get into this. I think that because of the lack of success that the Iranians had in that last missile strike, and what information has been transmitted to the Iranians by the Israelis in terms of what would happen to Iran if it attacked Israel again, I think that's making the Iranians hesitant. But what they're also coming to understand is the reach and the capability that the Israelis have at this point, and it's significant, very, very significant. And again, that's why you're not seeing a response, and I don't think you are going to see a response. I think at this point, Hezbollah is a dead organization. Now, what's going to rise out of the remnants of that organization? Sometimes that can be even more brutal and more tenacious. Look at the transformation of Al Qaeda and ISIS. Okay, things metastasize, they change, and I think right now, as a military organization, Hezbollah is dead, but that doesn't mean that something new is going to sprout in its place, and it's very likely based on what we have seen in the past happen in the Middle East. But we'll see what happens, and we're continuing to watch what is happening very, very closely with this very, very volatile situation. So there we have it. Now, back up to the ongoing war between the Ukrainians and the Russian Federation, and the Ukrainians' NATO handlers. Now, the Russians have now entered the center of Vugledar. That, as I've talked about before, that city is falling as we speak. There's not a lot of talk about it on the mainstream media. It's like it's not even happening. You don't even see it. You do hear about the various Russian missile strikes that are taking place throughout the Ukraine. The Russians are targeting any capability that the Ukrainians have to launch missile systems deep inside the Russian Federation. The Russians are concerned about those low observable weapon systems that have been handed over to the Ukrainians. And obviously, look, the Ukrainians are not going to put those weapon systems in a military base. They're not going to do that. Even a heavily defended military base that has the protection of, say, Patriot missile defense systems, probably not. They're going to try and hide those systems in areas where there is a civilian population. They're going to put them near targets that the Ukrainians think the Russians are not going to attack. But, just like the Israelis hit that target in downtown Lebanon, decapitating the leadership of Hezbollah, the Russians are going to respond the same. If there is a military weapon system that could attack Russia, then that is not the fault of the Russians, but that is the fault of the Ukrainians for putting those weapon systems near a civilian target. Okay, you're essentially using human shields to defend some of these munitions that have been given by NATO, and the Russians are going to go after them. Now, I think given the low casualty figures, I think the Russians are being very particular in what they are going after and how they're going after some of those targets. But nonetheless, they are going after those targets, and at the same time, these envelopment operations along the entire front continue. Vugledar, the operational offensive towards Pokrovsk continues. These operations are not stopping, and they're going to continue. And as I've talked before about the increase in Russian manufacturing of precision-guided weapon systems, both missiles, GLONASS-guided glide bombs, other weapon systems, the Russian doctrine has changed. The Russian doctrine right now in terms of using its air force has changed quite a bit from day one of the conflict. It's changing. They're adapting. And we're seeing that on the ground. Now, the Kursk incursion continues. Again, we're still trying to fully understand the purpose behind this creation of this false media narrative that the Russians have successfully invaded the Russian Federation. Again, look, there are several brigades that occupy some potato fields in one small town. And that's about it. Now, the question is it going to hurt the Ukrainians more than it helps the Ukrainians? What is the cost versus benefit? And we think that cost is going to be higher. That cost is going to lead to the Ukrainians not having the ability to defend some of these frontline cities, such as what we're seeing now, Vugledar. That Ukrainian brigade has been there for quite some time. If, in fact, the Ukrainians had not exerted forces in Kursk, they probably could have used some of those brigades to relieve Vugledar and counterattack and possibly retain control of Vugledar. Now, that's no guarantee given the change of strategy. The Russians are just not attacking haphazardly. They're using its air force and these glide munitions to wear down Ukrainian forces. So even if the Ukrainians did withdraw the current brigade that was there or reinforce it with additional forces that are now in Kursk, the outcome would have probably been the same. It would have just taken a little longer. And that's what happens in a war of attrition. But there we have it. We will continue to cover and report. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but this operation that took place in Lebanon by the Israelis is probably going to, well, it's not probably, it is going to go down in history as one of the most effective decapitation operations that, again, just did not attack the top of the pyramid. It attacked the entire pyramid. An incredibly effective operation that I don't think people really truly understand as of yet. And I think that capability has led to deterrence, meaning the Iranians are deterred. They're not going to engage the Israelis right now for a number of reasons that I've just talked about. So there we have it. As always, thanks for joining us. More to come. Have a good day.